Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America on the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network. Great to have you with us on the program today. Follow and like us on Facebook. Very easy. Facebook.com/This Week in America. Facebook.com/This Week in America. As mentioned on the program today, Violeta Sterner is with us on the show to talk about the second book in Ravenwood Clan series. It's finally released. People have been excited after reading the first in the series, Cold from the Inside Out. The new book is The Moonlight Emporium. Violeta F Sterner, our guest on the program, and our website, available at our website. You can link onto it as well, is the moonlightemporium.com. Violeta, welcome to the program. Great to have you with us.
Thank you, Rick. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excited about reading the new book, The Moonlight Emporium, which, as I mentioned, is a sequel to Cold from the Inside Out. When you finished Cold from the Inside Out, did you know that that was going to be the first and you would come back and do another book?
Yes, I hoped that I would do that, and so I was surprised when I came out with Moonlight Emporium.
You know, the book is really an easy read. It's a fun read. It's very enjoyable. I know, and you've said that you'd like to entertain people and leave them with something to think about. In terms of leaving with something to think about, when people finish these two books, what is it that they're going to be talking about, do you think, and going through in their minds?
Well, I'm hoping that they're going through in our minds that we shouldn't be afraid of things we have not done yet, because writing a book was a really big difference from what I normally did. So it was a leap for me to get it published and everything.
Well, and let's talk about that. You have a technical background, and then you decided you would like to write a book. Let's talk about how that happened when you decided, I think I have a book in me. I have a story that I would like to tell. Take us through that up to the point where you finally contacted a publisher and decided, I'm actually going to go ahead and do this.
Yeah, I really needed a rest from all the technical stuff I had going on. And so I looked around and I thought, well, maybe you should be able to write a book. You've read enough of them. And so I just sat down one day and wrote it.
Where did the idea come from? And the first book is Cold from the Inside Out. The follow-up with that is The Moonlight Emporium. Violeta F Sterner, our guest on the program. Our website is themoonlightemporium.com. Where did the story for Cold from the Inside Out? Where did you come up with that story? And for people who are listening thinking, I've always wanted to do that, how do you go about getting started? How did you finally sit down and go, okay, I'm going to write this? How do you work on the characters? How did they develop?
Actually, I got the idea for the book from my brother-in-law, oddly enough, because one day when it was so cold here and he was having to work outside and he could not get himself warm, and he said he was cold from the inside out. And I was like, that sounds like the title of a book.
That's interesting. So listen to people when they're talking to you, because you never know when there's going to be an idea there that will actually turn into a book at some point.
Yes, that's very true. So one day I sat down and started writing and just basically wrote all the way through, beginning to end.
Now, did you do an outline before you sat down, or did you just sort of let the story flow as you were writing it?
No, I didn't do an outline, and when I think back on it, all the papers that I had to write all the way through school, I never wrote an outline because I considered it a waste of time. I sat down and wrote the papers from beginning to end, which is exactly the way I wrote the book, beginning to end.
So you just eliminated that middle step. You're going to write the outline and go back and write it anyway, so you were just going to write the book and do it without an outline.
Right.
How do you go about setting up a routine? Do you have, it's interesting when you talk to authors, some say, okay, I have to set aside a certain time, or I write whenever I feel like I can write. What was your routine in writing Cold from the Inside Out and then the sequel, The Moonlight Emporium?
I learned quickly that it was best for me to write in the morning because I was more productive and I had to make less corrections and less changes to things I had written. So I would always sit down sometime in the morning and write for a few hours. and then usually again sometime in the late afternoon, and I'd do a couple more hours. But that's as much as of a routine as I got.
Violeta Sterner, our guest on the program. The website is the moonlightemporium.com. That's the sequel, The Moonlight Emporium. The original book was Cold from the Inside Out. The book is available all across the country, and, of course, information at Violeta's website. The main character that I can see this as a movie because as I'm reading this, I'm like, Kate really is an interesting person. Kate is sort of the focal point, at least in the beginning of the books. When you're developing a character, was Kate somebody you knew or somebody that you just totally created?
Actually, from my point of view, I totally created her. But as I've read back over the book and things about Kate, I was like, oh, those are things that you do or you have. So I can see myself in her and some of the things she does. But basically, I made her up.
Violeta Sterner, our guest on the program. The new book is at the Moonlight Emporium. Let's talk a bit about the research. When you, what type of research is involved? Now, these are characters. You're developing these characters, but you've got a time period you're dealing with. You're dealing with some injuries. You're dealing with a number of things. Is there any research that goes into doing this, or is this, again, basically from your life, from your knowledge?
It's basically just from my knowledge, and then I made it up. A lot of things in there I've never encountered before and are not true, as opposed to some things which are very familiar and are true. But on the whole, I made it up.
So when in doubt, who needs research? This is my book, my fiction. It's in my mind that I'm putting on pages. We'll just go in this direction, and in reading it flows very nicely. And I thought maybe there was some research periods that you put into that. The initial book, Cold from the Inside Out. You talk about when you got started and you finally decided, okay, I'm going to do this. When you actually got the book in your hand, and here it is. Cold from the Inside Out. I see my name on the book, Violeta F Sterner. What was that experience like for you?
It was a total surprise, because even though I sat down and I wrote it and I sent it off to be published, I still didn't totally understand that it was going to be a book that I could look at and flip through and read. And it's like, I looked at it and I'm like, oh, look at that. You actually wrote a book.
How do you go about finding a publishing company? Talk about your experience. You want someone who's nurturing, who's understanding what it is that you would like to do, understands this is a totally new process for you, and it can be intimidating if the people you work with allow it to be intimidating. And I know in your case, they work very closely with you. What should people look for when they're looking for a company? And you can relate to your experience.
Well, the first thing you need to understand is that I self-published my book. So that takes out a lot of that problem with your publisher of having them work with you and do what you want and go along with what you're looking for.
Yes.
Because if you self-publish, they're basically going to do what you want.
How about advice and guidance along the way? When you have questions, when you hit a block where you're not real sure what needs to be done. And again, there's a lot of trust involved in this too. Once you finish the project, it's up to them to see it through and to make sure that, one day you're getting in the mail the copy of your book.
Yes, it is.
Violeta Sterner, our guest on the program, the second book in the Ravenwood Clan series. It's now been released. It's called The Moonlight Emporium. The first book is Cold from the Inside Out. You mentioned you decided, I can write a book. I've read enough of those. Who are some of the authors that you've read that maybe have influenced you over the years?
Oh, now you're going to make me think, right?
I hate to do that to anybody. Are there any favorites that stick out?
Yes, there are. I just need to figure out where I wrote them down, because I did write them down.
Well, while you're looking for that, let's just continue. Got a couple minutes left in the program. The Moonlight Emporium is now out. Is the story complete now, or do you see I could come back and do another in the series?
Oh, yes, I could come back and do another in the series. In fact, it's wandering around in my head right now. I just haven't made it to paper yet.
Well, that's interesting. I would think as you're developing this, and I guess the writers have been doing this for years, are disciplined enough that they can shut that off. I would think that this is sort of in the back of your mind that, the characters and especially in the process of writing the book, where you're thinking through, what am I going to do next? Where are the characters going to go? Do the characters become, in sort of a sense, a part of your life?
Yes. Very much so. And I know this sounds weird. I interact with them like they're people in my life. When I'm writing about them, I'm feeling them, what they're doing, what they're thinking, what they're going to do next.
That's interesting. So they're not just words and people on a legal pad or in a computer. These are actually people that are in your world, which, in a sense, as I'm thinking back as I've read through your books, these people do have that type of dimension to them. So you actually see these as real people.
Basically, yes.
Yes. Well, again, the website, running out of time on the program today, and the series is an excellent one. Cold from the Inside Out was the first. It's available in paperback, hardback, and ebook. The Moonlight Emporium is the sequel. The website for all the information on the book is themoonlightemporium.com. Violeta F Sterner has been our guest on the program. Information available at our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and you can log on and to get all that information. You mentioned that you'd like to do another one. When do you think that'll happen? When can we look forward to the third book from you?
Probably either late this year or maybe even next year.
Okay, so it sounds like you're getting ready to sit down and go back to work again.
Yes.
Well, Violeta, thank you so much for joining us on the program. An excellent series, Cold from the Inside Out, the first, and the follow-up now available, The Moonlight Emporium. Good luck with book number 3. Looking forward to that coming out, and we will talk with you when that happens. And congratulations on taking that step that so many of us fear, to actually sit down and to write the book, and the success that you've had with Cold from the Inside Out and The Moonlight Emporium. Violeta, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much, Rick.
You're welcome. You're listening to This Week in America and the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network.